Who has an Instant Pot? You can raise your hand, your virtual hand down there if you want. Since I don't, okay, Stephanie has an Instant Pot. And so Instant Pot stock is super easy. You know, you can set it and forget about it until it's done. And it takes very minimal time for vegetable and just less time than it would on the stove for chicken. But stovetop's certainly another method, and it's easy to do. You can simmer it on the stove for quite a while. The downside is you have to be around because you're going to have it on the stove for quite a while if you're making a chicken stock. Those chicken stocks tend to take a lot longer, vegetable not so much. And then of course you have the slow cooker, which goes back to a set it and forget it kind of thing, but takes longer. So doesn't it look beautiful though, what we've got in here? So let's talk about making this vegetable stock and broth. I have another extra little camera here. I have to move it out of my way for a moment because I can't see my slide. Okay, so first we're making broth for pennies because you can use your scraps. As I mentioned, you're saving things like the ends of onions and so on. There's just general guidelines, and I'm going to give you a recipe that you'll receive at the end of the class in your email. So you want to make sure that you check your email, click on the link, and you'll see the recipe there. And that recipe follows these guidelines. But in general, we're going to use half solids and half water in our recipe. So just a rule of thumb. I have oftentimes made quick vegetable stock solely out of scraps, and that can work too. If you're making the vegetable stock, you're cooking it on high for 5 to 6 hours in the crock pot or on low for 7 to 8. I think on low is really nice way to get the flavor, but you're going to get a good product in 5 to 6 hours in the crock pot. If you're doing it in the Instant Pot, it's only taking 25 minutes on high pressure. And then you have a natural release, and then your stock is finished. And you want to make sure not to forget to strain it and to cool it quickly. And then this will keep in the refrigerator or the freezer for up to a year. It'll keep in the refrigerator for up to a week. So let's look a little more closely at the recipe itself. Now I'm hoping that you can see this. I'm going to amp up the magnification a little bit just so you can follow along. I'm going to also talk it through. So here's what you might take as a suggested start. Now, I do suggest that you start with this recipe and then you make modifications according to what you really enjoy and the taste that you like, because you can do different things. So in this case, we're using a yellow onion and we're going to quarter it. Now, guess what with the onions? I have a red onion here. I'd use that. It's okay. Any onion will do. Notice it's got the peel on it. I'm not even taking the peel off. I'm going to cut this in quarters and be done with it. You can do this so fast. So rinse it, wash it, cut it into quarters, and it's ready to go. So 1 onion, and then 2 cloves of garlic. I'm going to stop my share so you can see me better, and I'll just read off the recipe if that's okay. So 2 cloves of garlic, and this is a head of garlic. Sometimes different heads of garlic have different size cloves depending upon the type of garlic you get. So that would be considered a clove of garlic. This is a clove of garlic. And you know, sometimes you get much bigger cloves. So I eyeball that a little bit and I decide, well, how much do I like garlic? How much do I want in there? And I might put more or less in depending upon the size of my garlic cloves. Henrietta, do you have a question? Okay, I just see something, finger or something there. I didn't know if that was your hand.
Stephanie is a hand.
What is that?
Sorry, I'm using my small telephone, so I'm holding it on the hand.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Henrietta. I just want to be sure I wasn't missing a question. That's
no.
Okay. Well, the same thing is true with garlic. You don't really have to peel this either. What I would suggest, though, is that you take the back of a knife and you just smash it, and you can put it in like that, because then that way it releases all of the flavors of the garlic. Okay, so I'm just going to set that aside for the time being. And then we're going to use 3 chopped carrots. Now I have carrots in my bowl here that I'm going to use for the chicken stock. I'm going to show you that, but it's essentially the same for the vegetable stock. You don't have to slice these thinly or do anything fancy with them. Just take a carrot and cut it in thirds, something like this. It doesn't even have to be this small, but just cut it a few times. So same thing with celery. So in this recipe, we're calling for one yellow onion. I'm using a red. You can use a yellow. 2 cloves of garlic, 3 chopped carrots, 3 stalks of celery. Now, this is a stalk, the big thing, and I'm just cutting that in rough pieces as well. And then 3 cups of veggie scraps. These are the ones that I put into the freezer that I've been saving. Now, if you don't have any veggie scraps saved, just amp up a little bit. You're good with what you have with the carrots and so on. But you can add some other things if you like. So let me talk to you a minute about what are the things that you might use as scraps that you would save. And again, this will be on the recipe that you get. You can use, as I mentioned, all the onion skins and the ends, even the root ends, as long as they're well washed. You can use the ends of leeks. You know, the leeks are those gigantic looking things. These are scallions or spring onions, but the leeks are the big version of this. I didn't have a leek today. So you could, you cut these off and you don't use them on a leek for anything else. So you could keep them for your soup stock. You could use tomatoes that are too soft. So have you ever had those cherry tomatoes that you bought a box of them for a salad and you've had them in the refrigerator and you look at them and you think, I should use those up, but I don't have anything to use them for. They're getting a little bit wrinkly. You can throw them into your stock. That's perfect. You can even throw them into your bag, your freezer bag, your scrap bag. So when you're cleaning out your refrigerator at the end of the week, and you have things like maybe some lettuce that is a little bit brown on the edges or those little wrinkly tomatoes, those things are all options for going into your scrap bag to be used in your soup later on. Now, one of the things I've noticed, people have asked me, do you put all those scraps in one bag? And I said, yes. And now I'm thinking I have an addendum to that. I think that's okay. I found though that I end up using a lot more onions than anything else in a lot of my dishes, and I have big leek things. So I am thinking what I'm going to do in the future is make a separate bag for all my things that are onion related, onion and garlic related. And then my other scraps I'm going to put in another bag. That helps me to make sure that I'm evening that out, because I've had instances where maybe I have my onion taste is a little too strong. So some of this is really just playing when you're using scraps, it's playing it by ear a little bit. We are becoming chefs and cooks that are learning to taste our foods and decide